depends on the role, really. Like, it just depends on like what the role calls for. I mean, for this, I didn't do a ton of, I exercise just to like be a healthy person, but I didn't do anything special when it comes to that side for this, because she doesn't know that she's about to be in an action movie.
Right.
She just thinks that she's going to get some money and leave. So it was important to me to actually like kind of put all of that out of my head and just focus more on being confused and not knowing what was going to happen next. It's not that interesting. It's just like I read it, and I really liked it, so I talked to Ben on the phone, and it seemed like we both had similar ideas when it comes to the possibilities within film, and so we did it. I mean, it's a little different. It's like a little later, right, than Kong, so I felt like I was progressing. There you go. But, I mean, I think the 70s are just so beautiful. It's such an iconic period of time in the world and also just like in cinema. And a lot of my favorite movies are from that period of time. So being able to be part of something like that where we're also, I think everything, unless I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure like all the special effects were just done in camera. So it just felt like we're kind of like back to basics. I think so. I mean, I don't know if that's like the penultimate for him, but like I do think that he loves it. I mean, we talked about, one main thing we talked about was Gloria. Because I love
Is that where you kind of found her?
That's one piece of it.
Yeah.
That's one piece of it is just, I'm fascinated by where we've come and where we've been as women in kind of like action movies.
Right.
I think it's a tricky line to balance, because the easy way to do it is to just be a man, act like a man, but be a woman. But I don't think that that's where this conversation ends. I think it's much more complicated than that. I think women can bring a lot of different things to the screen that are also interesting and are innately female.
Yeah.
So I think that what Jenna brought to that whole film was, yeah, she's a badass, but she's also like really compassionate and really empathetic, and it's coming from her like loving and wanting to do right by a child. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I did know, but I didn't. Who knows? Like, I could not be on set and he could have shot 5 different endings, and I would have never known.
That's true.
It's his,
Possible.
it's his choice. Some of it I think was on the page and just didn't make it on the screen, and then some of it was just talking with Ben about the same thing that you're asking, which is like, why is she there? I mean, part of what I love about the movie is that question at the very beginning. You're like, everybody else makes sense except her. Like, why that? Why her? Why now? And that sort of unfolds in the end. Yeah, I did love that part. Like, I love coming up with the backstory and kind of thinking about what her main objective is, especially with Ben does how he shoots his one scripted, one improvised, one scripted, one improvised. So everything starts to kind of bleed together. So you have to, especially during improv, you just have to know like the core of your character, just like where I am and what I'm trying to get to. Just the simple fact of that. That's what leads the improv. Whether she wants to be or not.
Right.
Yeah.
She's ingrained.
Yeah.
To everyone.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah, but she's kind of like the quiet leader of that group in a way. Like every other dude in that is peacocking and so much ego, and they're all kind of fighting for power and fighting to be the most amazing, the most interesting, the funniest, the coolest, the strongest in the room. And she's like, have fun, I'm out. I'm not playing that game, but in her head I think she's like, but I'm the coolest and I'm the smartest. She's not saying it out loud, She thinks that she's got them all fooled. I just had the best time making this movie, and I don't say that about, making movies is really, really hard. That's just how it goes. But this was just like, it felt like the time flew by, and I think by the end of it, all of us were like, can we just like get this group back together every year and just for like 2 months just do this over again? Because it just was like the perfect group. And we were all just, one of my favorite things too is that movies, when I'm making a movie, it brings people from different walks of life together. So I got to hang out with all of us from such completely different places, hanging out together, and we got on so well. I don't know, I just had the time of my life. Funniest?
Yeah.
They're all so funny, and I think they're also the funniest when they're all together. I really love Smiley a lot, though. I wish that he was here for his press tour because I missed him, but yeah, he's very funny. but all of them are.
All of them are.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of. I mean, I feel like we were just laughing all day about the ridiculousness of what it was that we were doing. I mean, one thing that made me laugh really hard early on was basically we did a walkthrough of the warehouse, talking about where everybody was going to go, and as Ben was talking, he was like, realized that Babu, because he gets shot so early on and he falls in the center of the room, that it meant that for like a month and a half he was just going to have to lay there all day. And like, oh my gosh, that's the worst. I can't believe that you're going to have to lay there all day for 10 hours a day. That's awful. So they ended up having to like figure out how to like hide him behind a wall, his head behind a wall, so they could put like a mannequin body thing there. But those are the things that you just don't think about necessarily until all of a sudden you're there in the space with your actors and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like bad. It wasn't because we shot in order.
Oh.
So it was really easy actually.
Okay.
And part of that was just because when you put those squibs on and they explode, you don't really know what it's going to do to your costumes. We kind of had to. We couldn't plan ahead and shoot something before we knew what was going to happen. And although Ben had really well thought out that whole plan of where everyone was running to, sometimes, like with Babu, there was one moment where I had to run from one part of the warehouse to another, and as I was doing it, Jack was like, I would shoot you. You're totally right here. I would totally get you. And Ben was like, sorry, you're getting shot again. So you just feel like part of it was like trying to finagle with Ben, being like, maybe I could go this way, or maybe I could go that way, and I won't get shot if I go that way. And he's like, no. So you'd have to kind of, we were all playing this almost this really long game of laser tag, of like trying to avoid it, to not. Yeah. It was really fun. Or you try and like, I remember at one point too, I was like climbing, and as I was crawling on the ground, there was like a piece of cardboard, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I could just like get on this cardboard and kind of use it as a sled, and I won't have to drag my body across all these rocks. Like you just got sort of, your brain starts changing, and it gets really savvy as to like what you can use of those materials that are there to get you from one part to the other part. Oh no, not gracefully. Definitely not gracefully. I don't think I was very graceful. I don't know if I was to make this movie at all. I don't think anybody was. I think that's the funny part. I don't have an answer to that. I don't have an answer. I just feel like I just do what interests me, what I feel like, and I think it'd be very odd for me to choose roles.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. I think it'd be very odd to choose roles based upon accolades or praise. That's a little odd. You just do what you do, and then how it's received, whether or not people like it, whether or not it gets awards, is like completely out of my control, which I'm very happy about that. I'm happy that I can just live in my bubble and do the things that I love, and the rest of it is just like not up to me. I was only there for like 2 days, so I can't say that I had like a full experience. It would be unfair for me to say I had a full experience, but I mean, it's like the greatest part of my job is the fact that I get to travel all over the world and experience different things, and it was really cool. In Brighton.
Oh, okay.
I was in Japan a little bit longer. I think I was in Japan 4 days. It was my second trip, so I've had a little bit more time to explore that place. I just love it so much. It's one of my favorite places in the world. Last year when I was there, for some reason the cherry blossoms bloomed early, and so it was really special to be there for that and get to see it was just magnificent. But part of what I enjoy about the press tour is that after I'm done doing press, I go explore it. Yeah. And I love exploring Japan. I find it such an inspiring place. Oh, well, my interest in mythology is like kind of never ending because there's just so much of it, and the amazing part of your brain is that you just like are always gaining and forgetting things and then relearning things over and over again. So I'm always reading mythology, and that's kind of the roots of how I connect to material. Is it's always for me goes back to that, like what are those ancient stories and what did they mean and what were they trying to represent, and how can I make movies that put a new face to those stories. I think my favorite films are the ones that I'm like, oh, I recognize this, that's Osiris, or that's Ananda. Like you can or Rapunzel, but it doesn't have to look like that. It's just the metaphor that's in there. I am for a very specific reason though. It's like I can't listen to John Denver now without like some very strong visuals.
Oh.
And is there anything better than John Denver in this movie? I'm not sure. I think it's kind of
the best use of John Denver in a movie.
I think so too. I totally agree.